Good morning, folks, and welcome to Down Dusty Roads. My name is Colin, and on my channel I document my rides, mainly in the Great and Little Karoo, but also from further afield as time allows. As you can see, the sun's about to come up over the mountain here, and the first light is already showing there on the Snyberg. And isn't that a lovely sight with the hills in front of the Snyberg Mountains? The early morning light. Really lovely. Another beautiful day in the Little Karoo for a bike ride. Today's ride takes us from Oudtshoorn through the Rust and on towards Willowmore. Guys have bailed here very recently. You can actually smell the fresh lucerne. It's lovely. Yeah, so we'll ride on tar until probably 25-30 kilometers outside of Willowmore, and then we'll take a turn to the left and we'll hit the gravel, and then we'll be coming back basically on two loops back towards the Rust. Those two loops will include a little bit of tar road, but basically most of it will be gravel, and we'll pop out just before the Stormtroff Dam, some 5 to 10 kilometers outside of the Rust. So early morning light, always beautiful. As I said, the two loops that we will be doing, the first one is the Toorwater Backroad. The second one, I don't think, well, I give these routes names myself. Toorwater is actually a station. I call it the Toorwater Backroad. The second one I don't have a name for, it's just a loop that takes us close to the Snyberg Mountains. Really pretty ride. So we cross the Willowmore River once and then pretty much follow the Willowmore River and come out just before Stormtroff Dam. Most of what I'll talk about today is on that Toorwater Loop. There's some interesting points. Look at this. Isn't that beautiful? Lovely light on these mountains. I've got to concentrate a little bit on the road. Some guy's gone off the road in his car, smashed into the fence in the donga. Hope no one's hurt. There were people standing there, so I'm sure everything's probably okay. Very pretty. Right, so into the Rust. Go straight through the Rust. It's still too early for anything to be happening here. Just after 6. May well stop in the Rust on the way back. Grab something to eat or drink. Or both. Some onions being grown here, you can smell them too. And of course the ostriches. Olifants River, right there next to the road. There's the Olifants again. Guys, lovely onions. So this is our turn-off coming up here now. I think they officially call it the Backroad. Interestingly enough, when it comes out the other side, it's called the Toorwater Road. Or it's signposted Toorwater. This is signposted Backroad. And I think that's probably got to do with the fact that there's a hot spring down here. And the other side is closer to Toorwater. So the sun is trying to come out, which is great, because it will make a big difference if it doesn't remain out. Yeah, so this is a very pretty road. It takes us through the Nietgenaamd Nature Reserve. And then on, as I say, there's some warm baths, hot springs. There's an old church up here along this route. And then Toorwater, which is actually a station on the railway line that goes from Oudtshoorn to Willowmore in the old days when it was still working. Now in my previous video, where I covered the route from Oudtshoorn along the northern sides of the Snyberg Mountains to Willowmore, I crossed a couple of rivers, one of which I thought was more than likely one of the rivers that feed the olifants, but if not, then it could perhaps be the olifants itself. And a couple of things. In the comment section, someone commented on the fact that it was in fact one of the rivers that feed the olifants, not the olifants. And I've actually done a little bit more research. The river that came across the road that we rode in my last video that I spoke about was actually the Toorwater River, Traka. And I've looked into that a little bit, and that river originates almost, well, at least halfway, but possibly a little bit further than halfway between Oudtshoorn and Beaufort West. And then it comes down south towards Oudtshoorn, and then before Oudtshoorn it goes into an easterly direction and basically follows more or less parallel to the route that I rode in my previous video from Oudtshoorn to Willowmore. It follows that road, just north of that road, and then cuts through more in a southerly direction, crosses the road, and then eventually joins up with the olifants on this side of the Snyberg Mountains. And it manages to get from the northern side to the southern side by coming through this poort, like Meiringspoort and Snyberg. There's a poort here through which the Toorwater River runs, and it's pretty spectacular. So if we just take a step back, the Snyberg Mountains, there are 5 places that you can cross the Snyberg Mountains along the length of the range. From the westerly side, the first one is, of course, Snyberg. Don't cover that in a video. A really beautiful poort cutting through the Snyberg Mountains. The next place that you can get access through the mountains would be the Gamke River Gorge. I spoke about that in my video on Gamke's Kloof, or the Hell. That obviously being one of the routes that the Kloovers used to take to get in and out of the valley. No road or railway line through there, as I discussed in my video on Gamke's Kloof. The next place would then be the Snyberg Pass, which is obviously not through the mountains but over the mountains. After that, the beautiful Toorwaterpoort, which we have covered in a video on its own, but also briefly covered in my previous video. Yeah, so after Toorwaterpoort, the next and last place that you can get through the mountain is here at Toorwater, and the poort is called the Toorwaterpoort. It's a little narrow for a road, but the railway line does go through there. Here goes a rabbit in the road. Let's see, these guys are usually stupid. They just run along the road instead of, there we go, instead of taking a left or a right. I need to take a right here, sorry, which will take us towards the Nietgenaamd or through the Nietgenaamd Nature Reserve. There are a couple of interesting points along here. There is the Toorwater hot springs, where the water is apparently about 40 degrees Celsius. It used to be open to the public, but for some time now it has not been. I think it's completely disused at this stage. Then another kilometer or so beyond that is a Roman Catholic church. Well, I believe it's a Roman Catholic church. Every time I've come through here, it looks like it's completely disused. There is a house close by, right next door to it, basically, and that seems to be occupied. But oh, look at that, a duiker. See if I can see him. Oh, there he goes. He's run. See, just see his tail going now. That's nice. Yeah, so this church is apparently a Roman Catholic church, and there is or was an adjoining monastery apparently. There's only one building that I know of that could possibly be the old monastery. And then about 3 kilometers later we get Toorwater, the station. And when we get there we'll talk a little bit about Toorwater. So this is very pretty here. Part of the nature reserve. It's beautiful aloes. So we are quite close to the Toorwater hot springs. As I say, they used to be open to the public some years ago, but for whatever reason, they haven't been for many years now. And I don't know if you'll see it with the camera, but just there where all the tall trees are, I think they're blue gums, is where the Roman Catholic Church is. Yeah, so there's the church. Here comes the first gate. Well, this gate is open. There are usually two that are closed. See, there's a dog here. There's definite sign of life here. Let's go and have a look here. I can only imagine that this was the adjoining monastery. Actually, there's a plaque there of some description. Let's go and have a quick look, see what that says. So 8th of December 1959. So not so long ago. Yeah, as I say, it looks fairly disused, doesn't it? Look at that light now on the mountains there, it's beautiful. Got some Toorwater sheep here on the right. So that over there is the poort. Toorwaterpoort. where the railway line cuts through from the Little Karoo to the Great Karoo. On this side, the station is called Toorwater. We'll talk about that just now. And on the other side, there's a siding called Vonderlang. So that's on each side of the mountain. And the poort is about 10 kilometers from this side to that. The entrance to the poort is on private land. So in order to get there, you'd have to ask permission from the farmer. See there, let me just have a look, see. You can see the poort there. It's pretty narrow, as I say, hence no road that goes through there. It's only the train line. Yeah, so that's Toorwaterpoort. And I would imagine the station got its name from the poort, so the Toorwater Station. Which is just around the corner here. And Toorwater means enchanted waters. And that comes from apparently early inhabitants said that the waters there at the hot springs back where the church was, or close to the church, had magical powers. And it was reported that under certain circumstances gas would be emitted from the hot spring, which, if conditions were right, would ignite on their own accord, causing flames to dance around above the water. So perhaps this is where the name Enchanted Waters comes from, and where the magical powers were thought to be from these gases burning, spontaneously igniting and having flames dancing around above the water. Okay, I've stopped here for something to drink. Also just to see if I couldn't get to the entrance to the poort, but the gate is locked. It does take you, as I say, on private land. And the road appears not to go right to the entrance to the poort, but pretty close. So I was hoping I could get closer. What I will do is, when I read up about the poort, I come across some photographs of the old steam trains going through here. And I will include those because those photographs are taken at the entrance to the poort and actually in the poort, and give a very good indication of what the poort is like. Each photograph has credit on it to the photographer, so I'm hoping that by including the photograph with the guy's name, that I won't have any copyright issues, but I would imagine not, because the photographs are available on the internet, and as long as I've got the guy's name there, I'm sure everything will be fine. But it will give us an idea as to what the port looks like. Is there a gate here? Oh, there's a place I can walk through there, so let's go and have a look. Okay, so let's go and have a look at Toorwater Station, or what's left of it. I mean, it obviously would never have been much of a station. Now look at that, there's one of these old bicycle-driven things that run on the track. I guess that's the farmhouse for the Toorwater farm. So yeah, the buildings are looking a bit worse for wear. What a great pity that this is no longer used. Even more so that there's no longer a steam train running along here. I know it seems outdated, but they say when the steam trains go, so the rail infrastructure eventually goes too. And if you bring back the steam trains, then the infrastructure comes again, because there's such an interest in the steam trains. I mean, the younger generation today won't know about, or won't have ever seen a steam train running. Yeah, I remember as a child being super excited to run up to the tracks, stand next to the tracks as a steam train came past, wave madly to the driver, who then would blow his hooter or his whistle. Or you go and stand on the bridge and when the train comes underneath you. Brings back fantastic memories. Now, I'm sure, I see they've just revitalized or got the thing going again, the Oudtshoorn choo-choo, sort of from the George area through Wilderness, all that area along the coast there. So that's something that they've got going again. I'm sure, Oudtshoorn has a big tourist sort of through flow of people. And if you added I don't know, once a month or once a week, I'm sure once a month, if you added a steam train trip through this port, I'm sure the people would flock to it. I don't know, maybe I'm wrong. I don't know what the cost would be. I mean, the expensive bit is the track, and that seems to be fine here. I don't know about in the port, maybe there's a little bit that's been washed away, but as far as I know, it's good. If you took a steam train through here, I'm sure you would have people wanting to climb aboard. So the interesting thing here, the Toorwater Station and the surrounding area were the main sort of areas for the making of the Afrikaans movie Paljas, which they made in 1998. And that movie was apparently entered into the foreign language section of the Oscars. Can't tell you whether it did anything or didn't do anything, but apparently it was entered. And it involved a family living in and around this Toorwater area. Afrikaans movie Paljas. Very interesting. So I wonder how far this guy rides with his little machine. So that's Toorwater Station. We're going to cross the Toorwater River a couple more times before it then flows into the olifants. And we'll follow the olifants for some time now. Once we get to the olifants itself. Nearly there, it's not far now. Yeah, so that's Toorwater Station. So we'll cross the river twice more before it joins the Olifants, and then we'll be hugging the Olifants River more or less till we hit the Tar again. Well, we hit the Tar twice, once between the two gravel loops, but I won't really film that, and then the last bit going past Stormdrift Dam into the Rust. Lovely old farmhouse, lovely veranda. Magic, eh? Oh, so this is Toorwater Farm. So this is the second crossing of the river. As you can see, when it does come down, it comes down pretty hectically. Angora goats. Looks like Lucerne lands there. Recently been cut. Yeah, it's still lying on the ground waiting to dry out a bit before you can rake and bale. So here's the third crossing coming up. It's not long after this crossing that the river joins onto or into the Olifants. So here it looks a bit narrower, although it's still pretty broad, huh? Yeah, it's crazy that for so long this thing has got absolutely nothing in it, and then it comes down in flash flood. So many of our rivers in the Little and Great Karoo are just that, Olifants as well. The Olifants doesn't flow most of the time. There's some Angora goats. That's quite a big dam. Lovely dam, that's got quite a bit of water in it. Now this loop takes us back to the tar road. And then I'll take the tar road for, I'm not quite sure how far, it's probably 15 kilometers. And then I'll take the next loop, which takes us back over the Olifants River, and then pretty much follows the Olifants River on the northern side. And it comes out 5 or so kilometers before the Stormdrift Dam. So here we're going to hit the tar road again. And then I'll turn off as soon as I can. There's the Olifants River. So this is our turn off. As I say, if you go left, you head off towards Uniondale. It's a road I think I'll including a video at some stage. This is the Snyberg road. I just want to change batteries on my camera here. Stop at the top of the hill a bit. We're on to the second loop now. This is slightly less interesting of the two loops, although there is one particular area they'll definitely stop. One of the farmers has got a huge lucerne field, and alongside it a large area of onions, and that's always interesting to have a look at. I'll definitely stop there. That's quite interesting. Here's some more onions actually. This guy's also got onions growing here. You can see the onions through there. It's also a reasonable sized field of onions. So we're going to cross the Olifants River soon, and then interesting, I always wonder what the story is with that boat. Ah, here more onions. Yeah, so we'll cross the Olifants River, then we'll just ride along on the northern sides of the Olifants River. And then the Olifants River crosses the national road just before we join it. And so we'll only cross the Olifants once on this stretch. Okay, so we're about to hit the Olifants River, I think. Yeah, looks like it. Amazing to think that this river, well, it's nothing now, can absolutely tear down here. Crazy, eh? Nice farmhouse up there on the hill. Bit of a wash away here. This is definitely the less interesting of the two loops, I think. Although it does still have its merits. One of the special spots for me is this guy's onion fields. We'll definitely stop there. And of course, anytime you're riding alongside the Snyberg mountain range, it's got to be a good thing. This is a magic old house, and look at that. Isn't that beautiful? Very interesting top section there. This old barn's seen better days. If I remember correctly, just before we hit the tar road again, there's an example of one of these old tobacco barns here. The tobacco barns are just basically a drying shed for the freshly picked tobacco leaves. So to keep the sun off it, they have slats of wood down the sides, but it's not completely sealed so that the air can freely go through and dry the leaves. But there's definitely an uptake in tobacco growing, and as a result, these old barns are being put to use again. Occasionally, some of them have been repaired because over the years they've become too derelict. But now they've been put back to use again, which is fantastic to see. Yeah, look at these. This guy's onions, really lovely. These pods are starting to get to a decent size. Yeah, so the onions are all on drippers. You can see the pipes going down the lines. And there is a spill punt for his lucerne. Lovely lucerne on the right. This looks like either barley or oats. Back to the tar. Here's one of these barns. This is the barn I was telling you about. So you can see it's got space for the guys to go in there with a tractor. And then the wooden slats, but with plenty of space for the air to go through. It looks like it's been used as a shelter for the goats now. Yeah, so that was originally built as a tobacco drying barn. So back onto the tar, and then I'll finish the video in Durust.
So this is Ray's. Lovely to sit out here in the shade on the stoep. It's beautifully cool.
Well folks, that's pretty much a ride for today. I've just left the Rust and I'm on my way back home to Oudtshoorn. From here to Oudtshoorn there's nothing too spectacular, so I think I'll just call it a day right here. Hope you've enjoyed the ride. Thanks for coming along. If you haven't already, I'd really appreciate it if you would subscribe. It really will help my new little channel gain some traction. So if you wouldn't mind hitting that subscribe button, I'd be very grateful. And then hopefully you will join me once again when I next travel down dusty roads. Thanks folks, and ride safely.